I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being you. You're just you're one of those people where when people are able to connect with you, it's immediately obvious that you're real. You mean what you say. You do what you say. So to be able to connect with somebody like you, especially in the online world where there's so many different kinds of people, and I think most people are really just going for traffic and views, and they don't necessarily have substance because they're so focused on monetization. So you're a bright light. You're a bright light. And the fact that you're actually going out and making time to connect with people, and you're using your platform to elevate the women around you, just, I appreciate you.
Thank you, Queen. Thank you so much. You know, just before, you know, I came live, I was reading a couple of stuff about you. And I'm like, girl, you've got the whole media on your neck. Like rolling out Black entrepreneurs, Black enterprise. And I said to myself, that's going to be the question that I'm going to ask you. Thank you, Desmond. You know, but before I go into that, I want to say thank you so much for your kind words. And, you know, just that long call that we had the other day, and knowing that we have a lot of things in common, especially our passion for Africa. I wore green today, actually, because of the motherland.
I'm actually wearing my, like one of my favorite, it's Friday, so I figured a party dress. It's Nigerian, Labia.
Yeah.
It's the founder's Nigerian. She
it's Ankara.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, listen, I need to represent for my Nigerian sister. So, yeah.
And thank you. And of course, you're representing, and I'm really excited. And the work that you have done is massive. Guys, this is Nantale. Believe me, I first connected with her when we were compiling a list of women in the PR sector. And I'd not met her then. And this goes to show the power of you just being intentional about your work. For me, I don't see the person, I see the passion before the person. So I didn't know her, but when they sent me the list, I'm like, girl, she has to be on the list. What are you talking about? That's a PR queen, you know. And then I went to your profile, and I was fascinated by the amount of work you're doing in the community and just helping women. So Nantale is the founder of BlackgirlPR. She gives Black women a voice in the community, in the media. Listen, you know, I talk about PR a lot, and there are women that I just really love because of the way they've taken this, they've amplified our voices in the community. And she's one of those people. She's very intentional about her work. Nantale, I mean, every time I see her post and I see her on another platform being featured, and it's not just about her. She goes on to also spotlight other people on a platform who were probably featured on other places. And that's what I love doing as well. So I am hosting that today because I want to learn from her, and I want her to share from her wealth of knowledge, you know, a bit of her story and how we can harness storytelling, you know, the importance of storytelling to public relations. So before I go on, the first thing that I want to ask you is this. What inspired you to pitch your tent in the PR sector?
Okay, so let me start off by saying, so my name, Nantale, it's a little unusual. So when people see it, sometimes it's difficult to figure out how it's actually pronounced. It's Nantale. Ugandan. The thing that inspired me, and the thing that, because you've spoken about how you can tell that I'm passionate about what I do, I'm intentional, and that's because I was in a car accident and I almost died. And then when I came back to life, I realized that I can do more. I should be doing more. I should be doing more to elevate the Black community. I've always wanted to work with Black women. I've always wanted to do work that helps build community, that promotes empowerment. And after coming out of that car accident, I basically had a crisis, so I sat down and I really thought about, what can I do? How can I use my skills, my expertise, what I'm good at to elevate the Black community? And I decided that working with Black women entrepreneurs, Black women founders who are already building up their communities, already investing in their communities, they all mostly have mission-driven companies, so there's something positive attached to what they're doing that benefits not just their communities, but everybody, right? Because when we're making money and we're creating jobs, we're supporting our local infrastructure, we're bringing in dollars, you know, we're doing all of these positive things for the economy. So I figured if I connect with the women who are doing that, then I can have a bigger impact. So, and the reason that I'm so passionate about it and I'm able to do as much as I am is because I'm connecting with women who are also unstoppable forces of nature, who are dead serious about what they're doing. So when we partner, the work that we do just ends up being insane. And that's actually what inspired me to get started. And as I got into it and I started meeting incredible women like you, it just becomes really easy to stay motivated and to want to do better and want to do more because you're doing incredible things, you know. So watching you inspires me and keeps me motivated. And then, of course, I want to be involved, you know. So connecting to figure out how I can support so that we can all keep rising. That's where the momentum comes from.
Beautiful. And I just want to touch very quickly on your country, Uganda. That's because a lot of people might not know because of your accent. So listen, she is from Uganda, and I told her, you know, when we had a very long conversation, a clarity call, that one of my favorite countries is Uganda, and that's because my first and only visit to Uganda was very memorable, and the people were so warm to me. So how did your country, because I love asking people, you know, who migrate abroad, how did you, you know, living in Uganda, contribute or impacted what you do now? Because sometimes the story behind people's purpose is always from their place of origin. Something would nudge you, something would spur you to take action.
So my background is actually a little different. So I didn't grow up in Uganda. My parents are from Uganda.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in Lesotho, and I grew up in Namibia and South Africa. I've been in Uganda and spent a lot of time there. And the one thing that I can tell you about my background that has had a huge impact on what I do is the community aspect. Most, I mean, Black people across the diaspora and Africans, we have something that is a word or a phrase that's very focused on community. And what I grew up with was Ubuntu, right? Ubuntu, the philosophy, which is I am because we are, right? I can't experience the true depth of my humanity. I can't really experience the true depth of joy, love, you know, sadness, pain, without you, without my connection to you. You allow me to be human. And that's how I was raised. It's what drives me. It's my philosophy. It informs my spiritual philosophy. It's one of my pillars of the brand BlackgirlPR. So of course, having been raised with that mindset, the mindset of always making sure that I'm doing what I'm doing does benefit my community and the people around me, that I'm a good partner, that I'm a good collaborator. So of course, coming into this, building a business that does those things, right? Building a business where I'm the strongest link in the chain, but when I'm a weak link in the chain, it's okay because the rest of the people around me have me, right? So building something that, so it's everything that I do is completely informed by my upbringing, and because even though when I moved here, I didn't necessarily have people around me practicing, it's something that I never stopped practicing. And now that I'm doing it in such an intentional way and I'm connecting with people like you because I'm intentional about connecting with people who also value community, because we hear a lot about community right now, but because of Western society and white supremacy, when they talk about community, they're talking about it as a commodity and something to monetize, right? It's not what we're doing, right? That's not what we're doing. So when I connect with people who recognize the value of community and are actually being positive and meaningful members of their community and with their community, I'm like, yeah, let's go. Yeah, let's do it because that's what I want to do. That's what I'm doing.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And, you know, just so we get right into the topic of the day, you know, the first question here is, you know, importance of storytelling to public relations. That's why a lot of people join today. They want to know what's the nitty-gritty, you know, in your own words. A lot of people are out there, they hear public relations, people don't understand how brand story, personal stories and journeys, you know, how they contribute to building your reputation online. So you just want to run that, you know, quickly for us, you know, what are, you know, some of this nuggets that you might want to share with us today.
Okay. So PR is basically shaping how people perceive your brand. And because we encounter a lot of content during the course of the day, a really great way for you to stand out and make an impression when people encounter your brand is by sharing your story or parts of your story that they're able to connect with, right? And we hear a lot about authenticity online and being yourself, and I think where it plays into PR is that your story and the way you are, the way you think is completely unique to you. So if you tell your story enough and you get comfortable with it and you're able to share your story and parts of your story with people when you encounter them, because they've never heard your story, even though they may be people who had similar stories. They've never heard your story. They've never heard it told the way you tell it. They've never heard your unique perspective and take on things, aspects of your story, or things that have happened to you, things that have happened along your journey that have led to you building your brand and creating your brand, stories around why people should even care about your brand, right? What's your mission? What's your purpose? And those are all things that we can share in a way that invites people to want to know more, because the goal ultimately is, when we meet people, the goal isn't to sell. The goal is to give them enough information that helps them on the journey towards us, if our brand is the thing, or our solution, our product is the thing that's actually going to help them, right? I know sometimes it gets tricky because you'll share your story or say something and then people end up turning away, but that's actually a good thing, because our PR and marketing is not only supposed to attract the right people, but also repel people that aren't for us. So that's in a nutshell.
That's a powerful one. It's supposed to repel.
Yeah.
That means you are not jollof rice. Everybody's not supposed to like you.
No.
Amazing. So yeah, I mean that I'm gonna process that after the show just to try and get more clarity. But thank you for sharing that. And what is the best way to tell our story? Right. What platform should we use? Say, for example, I'm just starting out as a business owner and I have a brand story. What is the best way to tell the story to actually gain the momentum or keep the momentum or actually attract the right audience to me? Because there are sometimes you might share your story and then you're not sharing it very, the right way and you're turning people off, right? But then if you share your story in a way that resonates with your audience, you are converting that audience into followers, into customers, into clients. So what is the best way to share our story?
The best way to share your story is, first of all, to do research on who you're actually talking to, right? Because if you don't know who your audience or who your target customer is, then you're not going to know where they go for information, right? So that's where you need to be putting your story, and you won't really know what they care about. So we need to know where they go, where they actually go for entertainment, where they get their information, where they ask questions, and we need to know what they actually care about, so that we make sure that we're telling our story on those platforms and in a way that resonates with what their needs are, what their concerns are, what their challenges are, right? And you basically do that, and you check to see, you're putting your information and your stories out there, and you're watching to see what performs, how it performs, and then you're adapting how you're engaging people based on that. The goal is to get to a place where you're sharing your story, obviously as authentically as possible, right? But the goal is to get to a point where you've shared your story across various platforms, so you're creating kind of like a net, so that people, everywhere they go, right? Because you know where your target audience goes. You want to put yourself in all of the places. So the goal is so that when they're out there, they're seeing you all of the places where they are, and then they end up getting bits and pieces of your story, learning a bit about you, your mission, and then they end up going down an internet rabbit hole, which leads back to you and whatever your call to action are in different places on your site. That's the goal.
Powerful. And when you started out, how were you able to identify the platform that best resonates with your audience? Because I always tell people you can't be everywhere.
No.
As much as you want to try, we have Facebook, we have LinkedIn, we have Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok. So how did you identify where your audience were, engaging? Because if you have engaging audiences like everywhere, you might be a little bit confused as to where you should put your strength. Because I often tell people, put your strength where you have the voice. Yeah. Put your strength where you have people who resonate with your content. So for you, how did you identify very quickly when you started out to say, oh, yes, it's Instagram, oh, it's Facebook, this is where I have my target audience?
I mean, the first thing that I did was I did a ton of interviews. I went out and I found the women that I wanted to work with, and we had conversations. I asked them where they went, and then I took that information and I did research online to see. If you do a Google search, you can find a lot of market research where you can find information on specific demographics and what they use. You know, like maybe this age group uses LinkedIn. You know, depending on the industry, age, you can find a lot of information. So if you do a combination of qualitative research where you're speaking to people, you're talking to your target customer, and you're actually going online and looking at market research and seeing what the industry experts are saying about how people consume information, you combine those, then it's a good place to start. And of course, where we start, this is the kind of thing where periodically you're going to, because when we actually do the work and we put it out there, the results may vary, right? So we always need to be looking at our metrics, looking at our KPIs to make sure, to see how what we're doing is performing and then adapt based on that. But I'd say definitely start with, do that market research and talk to your customer.
Do the market research and talk to your customer.
And the third thing that I'm going to add is, especially because for the majority of Black women-owned businesses, especially in the startup phase, right? If you're in the startup phase when you're doing this, you're likely doing it on your own. So once you've done your research, also take into account what you like doing and what you want to do, right? Because if all of the information and data is telling you that you need to be on TikTok, but you hate video, then you may need to find a way around that, even though ideally you want to, because you know, why force yourself to do something you hate, right? We're not living that life. We don't need to. But so don't kill yourself, and also don't, like you said, like putting yourself on absolutely every platform. If you're finding that people are everywhere, then pick one or two and start there, and then go from there.
And go for it. Yeah, that's powerful. And you know, when people start out in any field at all, they oftentimes say they had role models that inspired them, you know, to do what they do. Who are some of these women? You know, if you want to mention, say, about 3 of them who inspired you on your journey, women who encouraged you, or women who from a distance you just admire their work ethics and how they push hard to push the stories to the front burner, and now they became that vision board or compass board for you. Who are some of these women?
I'm surrounded by some really incredible, phenomenal women. So a couple of a combination of some of my mentors and women that I just really, really admire. So when I first got started, before, actually the woman who came up with the name BlackgirlPR, her name is Femi. Hey, actually she's Nigerian American as well. We have like a Nigerian thing going on today. So she's absolutely phenomenal. She's a creative director, an astrologer, a celebrity chef. She lives in Atlanta. She's been in retail and commerce for over 20 years. And I had a conversation with her, and I'd had the idea for what I wanted to do, but I was still formulating it. And she was like, yeah, she helped talk me through it and actually came up with the name BlackgirlPR. And she's been a guiding light throughout this journey. And also just because I'm really lucky that I was able to tap into her and her knowledge, because from the beginning, like I knew what tools to use, you know, which coaches and mentors to go for, because there's somebody that you can choose from, you know. So she's really, really helped me in that sense. And then there are a couple of really phenomenal women. I'm sure you know Nikki Porcher of Buy From a Black Woman. Yeah. She's incredible. Yeah. So she's been doing this she's been running Buy From a Black Woman for 7 years. Last year, they helped drive $2.7 million in sales for Black women business owners. $2.7 million, right? the work that she does is absolutely insane. And then she's created this network. So it's this network of over 600 women all over the world who are all driven, passionate, really serious about their business. So I get to be surrounded by these women as well, which is really difficult to not be and stay motivated when there are women around you who are going for it really, really hard. And the deeper I get into this journey, the more I really appreciate my mother and the woman that she is, because I didn't grow up thinking that I couldn't do things because I'm a woman or because I'm Black. I mean, that lady is incredible. She's absolutely phenomenal. So the fact that I had someone modeling for me that I can do absolutely anything, definitely, now that I'm seeing as an adult, and especially in this space, has had a huge impact on the steps that I've taken and the steps that I do take. And like, I'm willing to bust down doors and, you know, like, step into rooms regardless, because I've watched it modeled for me. So those are some women who come to mind.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. And, you know, I always love it when women can mention other women in their field or outside their field who just inspire them, because nobody arrives at success junction without some motivation. So I often tell sisters, listen, you better tell the story and tell it real good. Somebody somewhere motivated you to hope, to believe, and that's what you've just shared right now. So what is the best way? Because one of the questions that I get as well is, Esther, what is the best way to pitch to a journalist? What is the best way, you know, to pitch to a PR person? Right, because people often say PR is not affordable, and I tell them PR is not charity. It's not charity. This is somebody's intellectual property. This is somebody's knowledge and skill set they're putting into work to push you house there. However, I believe that, you know, we should have like a level playing ground where we can support the sisters in the community who might not be able to afford a particular level of PR. So what is the best way to pitch to a journalist or, you know, a media personality for a feature, for example?
The best way to pitch is, number one, make sure that you're pitching to someone who actually cares about what you're talking about. Because the number one reason pitches are rejected is because they're irrelevant, right? I'm not going to send you a pitch about a car show in Texas for a business owned by a man, because you're focused on working with women and Black women, right? So do the research and actually find people who are already talking about and creating content around what you do. And then reach out to them. And when you reach out to them, you want to make sure that the message that you're sending them is actually customized. Be very careful of sending mass pitches. Don't send mass emails. Don't send mass. So if you're making the time to do some research and actually put a custom message in front of someone, so you're putting something in front of them that they care about because their audience cares about it, and you're sending them a custom message that shows that you actually did your research and what you're doing. You're showing them how what you're talking about makes sense for their audience. Then you're definitely going to increase your success rate. But you're right. PR is not cost efficient. It gets really pricey, especially for Black-owned businesses. We are chronically underfunded. We don't have the same access to funding. We're at a disadvantage when it comes to getting loans and grants, and because of systemic racism and bias, right? So it isn't cost efficient. So that's one of the reasons why I'm focused on actually teaching you how to do PR yourself. And I actually have a case study video where I explain steps of how to go out and get publicity for your brand. So it's in the link in my bio if anyone wants it. But make sure that you're connecting with people who care about what you're talking about. Send them a custom pitch, and then take it from there. And one other thing as well is to be very careful about, so the media landscape is, it's kind of crazy right now, right? We're seeing a lot of platforms are shutting down. We're seeing mass firings. It's also a very fast-paced environment, right? So the person on the receiving end is very busy, and probably really stressed out. So don't approach them with a sense of entitlement. Don't be rude. And I know these are really basic things, but when you're focused on your own goals and what you need to do, sometimes it's easy to forget that the person on the other end is a human being who might be experiencing things. So that goes a long way. If you're being kind, if you're being polite, and also if you're just connecting with them as a human being and putting something in front of them that's going to support their own content goals and content production goals, it makes a really big difference.
Great. Thank you for that. And I like the last part of what you said. Don't be rude. No journalist, no media personality, no PR guru is expected to support you out of compulsion. And even if you want to pay $1 million, if your story does not resonate with their platform, they have a right to say no. And that's one thing I tell people. Just because people are available, it doesn't mean they're accessible.
Exactly.
There are people, yeah. So, I mean, it's one of the things that I've also learned on the job. So we conducted a survey recently at Women of Race. And to my surprise, a lot of women, from the survey said they would rather want to be invisible. And that was a surprise for me. It was a public relations survey. We wanted to understand, the knowledge of the market. What do people think of PR? Because you hear PR all the time. What do you even know about PR? And then there was a particular question we asked about, the visibility. Do you want to be known as a face of the business? And a lot of them said, I think about 60% of them, they don't want to be visible. Right.
That doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me at all because visibility, and especially as Black women online, we are bullied. We're bullied for the way we look, for the way we present ourselves, the things that we say. So it doesn't surprise me at all when I hear that. And I think another thing as well is Black women, we've never been allowed to speak. We've never been allowed to speak. We're just supposed to be, quietly obedient, grinding, doing the work, carrying the load for everybody else and not saying anything at all. So when you've never really been given permission to speak, it feels a little uncomfortable to have to speak and to have to speak publicly. But it's really, really important for them to speak anyway, because nobody can convey the mission, the vision, the passion the way the founder can. Nobody.
Yes.
You can get anybody, you can have brand ambassadors, you can have partners, other members of the company, but they didn't conceive of the idea, they didn't have the vision. So the way you're talking about it is going to be completely different, When you're talking about it, people are going to be able to tell that you're passionate about it, that's something that people connect with. And it's just, it's the best way, one of the best ways to distinguish your brand.
That's a powerful one right there, how to distinguish your brand. Because I think a lot of people still don't understand their brand.
Yeah.
And when people reach out to me and I'm like, okay, what exactly do you want? What do you want for your brand? And so going back to my previous questions, what will the average cost of PR be? I mean, a lot of people might want to know. So if I want to start up a business, right, and I come to you and say, I need PR for my business. I'm just starting this business. I want to be seen here. I want to be seen there in strategic places that resonate with my audience. What would a, convenient budget looks like from your own end?
I don't know in terms of convenient. PR is anything from like $2,000 to $20,000 and up per month. So the goal is always for you to find a PR person that you like, that resonates with you, somebody that's done work in your field, your area with, to be completely honest, as a Black woman, I'd rather connect with another Black woman, I'd rather connect with another Black woman to help me tell my story, because we've had similar lived experiences. So I don't have to translate myself and my life and my being when we're communicating a message, right? Find someone that you don't have to speak a different language to get them to understand what you do. Find someone who's actually gotten results doing the work that you want them to do, and have a very honest and candid conversation about what what your expectations are, because you might come to them and say, I want to be in Forbes, right? But if you aren't paying to be in Forbes, you can't guarantee a spot in Forbes, right? So you have to have a candid conversation about what your goals are, where you want to be featured, what the person's gonna look like for getting you featured, and what you can expect based on the work that they're going to be doing, and also some of the results that they've gotten with the work that they've done.
That's and how do we know, you know, if PR personnel resonates with us? That's another thing, you know, like how do you know? So if I were to come to you, for example, and then the other women or men who are into the PR sector, how do I know, okay, BlackgirlPR is who I should be speaking to at this time for this project? What should we look out for when we want to, you know, approach these people? And I'm asking you this question because one of the most saturated word right now is people saying they are coaches. My apologies. Yeah. And I'm getting to a point where I really want to ask people for their certification. Like, yo, you want to coach me on something? I want to know where you got the skill set, where you got your education, because everybody can be a coach. Like, you post every day, you can be a coach on something, you can be a coach on the other thing. But then for PR, it's quite sensitive. You know, it's a very sensitive industry, which is why I'm asking you this question. Like, how do you know the person that resonates with you? How do you identify that person?
So in terms of whether or not they resonate with you, I'd say take a look at the at who they are, right? Like what they're saying about themselves, their background, their mission. Do you care about the same things? Is this someone that you feel like you can actually connect with and work with closely? Because at the end of the day, you're going to be sitting across the table from this person and talking to them, spending time with them. So if you don't feel like you can comfortably do that, you don't want to even go there, right? Because you don't want to end up in meetings and you're like dreading it. But then also, like, take a deep look at their background and their experience, right? What certifications, what degrees, who else is talking about them, right? Who says that the work that they're doing is good? Like, who has verified them, right? Who's verified them? Like, you mentioned earlier that you were on my site and you've seen that I've been featured by a couple of lists, right? Like LinkedIn and Black Enterprise. So there are other verified people who have looked into me and say that I'm legit, you know, so check to see who else is actually talking about them. And another thing to look at as well is look at reviews. And when you're looking at reviews, check to see specifically reviews from third-party platforms, because third-party platforms, they collect the reviews and then we see them afterwards. We can't edit them, we can't tweak them, we can't doctor them. So that's a really, really good way to find true and honest information about somebody that you want to work with. And another reason that I mentioned the results aspect as well is because if you can see the results of the work that they've done, right, like real actual human beings that you can go and look up, because they've gotten those results, that's another thing that I mean, I know that the internet is wild and there's a lot of fake things, but that's something that you can't fake.
Yep, absolutely. And you need to be willing to do your due diligence. Do some research to avoid stories that touch, which was why I use the example of everybody saying they're coaches these days, and everybody just slam it on the bio, and then boom, you're just going right in. You don't even know if that person has a certification in the problem you need solution for. Now, how do we help, you know, the Black community or how do we encourage them? Because I found out that a lot of people in the Black community, we still don't understand how important PR is. You see this amazing women on blackenterprise.com. Because of them we can, Ebony, Essence. Oftentimes it's the media who picks up the story because something significant happens to them. However, we hardly find these women actually pitching, you know, reaching out to PR people, you know, personnel to say, hey, I need you to handle my PR for me. So what can we do? What do we need to do better? More education, more informative session. What should we do better to sensitize our community on the importance of PR?
Yeah, you're completely right. Only 30% of businesses, small businesses, and people actually doing PR. And if you consider the percentage of Black people who are doing it, it's even smaller. I actually can't find that data. I've looked for it, but considering that percentage, the smaller percentage of Black-owned businesses, it's significantly smaller. So one thing that I always say is, because only 30% of people are doing it, if you do it, then the competition, there's very little competition. So it's a really good way for you to actually get a competitive edge. But a really good way, and I think the best way, is to educate people on the importance and the value that they'll get out of doing PR, because so few people are doing it. It's to have sessions like these, to have information sessions, to have conversations, and also to do what we can to share information that's going to get in front of them, so that they can see that this is something that they can actually use to elevate their businesses. And another really good thing that I've found is for events and conferences that are centered around business, come in, and I do a lot of talking and speaking engagements and guest spots and that kind of thing, to share information like this with the business owners, because ultimately it's just a really great way. And especially if you take the time to learn if you get a strategy, you take the time to learn how to do it yourself, so you turn it into an in-house expense. So if you aren't spending that like 5, 6, 7K per month, right? Then it's a really, really good way to give yourself a competitive edge, especially because once you start doing it and you start getting your brand on those big platforms, then those platforms have entire marketing teams and marketing budgets and ad budgets. So their job is to drive people to those platforms. So you can actually end up leveraging everything that they're doing for marketing, leverage their marketing budgets to get your story in front of even more people. So I found that going out and having this conversation where I'm showing people, talking to people about the value of doing it and how to do it in a way that's cost effective, and also reminding them that their stories actually do matter, right? The fact that they're the representation in a lot of spaces that don't have it. They've usually got really incredible stories that are inspirational. So we need their stories out there. Nobody else is telling stories the way they can, and they deserve to be able to tell their story in their own words, as opposed to have it filtered through, a platform or organization that doesn't even understand their lived experience.
You're dropping some very powerful nuggets here. I've got to watch this show over again and write a whole content from this. Now, just before we wrap up, what are some of the changes that you hope to see in the PR sector?
More Black voices, because so there are levels to, as with any industry and organization, right? There are levels to, and if you take a look at the PR industry and you look at the numbers, there are very, very, very few Black people and Black women in PR, and the majority of them are at the lower levels, right? And this is one of the reasons why we see some really shady PR and marketing campaigns, because even though there might have been a Black person in the room, they probably didn't have the decision-making power to shut down the shadiness before it happened. So I would love to see more Black voices in positions of power, so that they're actually empowered to, shut down shadiness. And also so that, just more inclusivity, so that they don't necessarily have to shut it down, because the spaces are better. Everybody's dialing back on their DEI efforts when they should be doubling up, So the issues shouldn't be an issue in the first place, but at least if we have more Black people in decision-making positions, that's going to make a big difference. And also more organizations that actually invested in representation in terms of the content that they're putting out and just the decisions that they're making in general.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Listen, I love when I chat with people who not only know their onions, but they're very passionate about what they do. And everything you're saying is from a place of high level frequency confidence, because it is what you've done over the years. you know, and I want to say that, you know, you're doing so well. Believe me, I cannot wait for that summer that we hope to, you know, hang out one of these days, one of the summer, you know, hang out here in Toronto or come over to yours. But that brings me to the last question. When it comes to networking, when it comes to creating room for women and, you know, just sort of like supporting other women in the field. So if you were to speak to a young woman, a young Black woman who is just starting out right now, what would you say to her? You know, as a PR expert, what would you say to her?
I would say to definitely make sure that she learns about digital marketing, so that she and actually like go into a digital marketing agency and just like get that experience doing the work, because if because of the nature of the way the world is, if you don't take the time to learn how to position yourself so that when people come looking for you, they find you, right? You need to know how to make sure, you need to know how to get information in front of people at the time of need. So when I ask a specific question, then it's important that, or when the consumer asks a specific question, if your content isn't showing up, regardless on what platform they're on, then that's a problem, right? So learn digital marketing, because that's not something that's going away. And if you don't have knowledge of digital marketing, then your PR isn't going to be as efficient as it could be. So I'd say that. And the other thing I would say is don't whatever spaces you go into, don't assimilate. Don't assimilate. Don't try to be like everybody else. Don't try to fit in. That's a trap.
Don't try to fit in.
That's a trap. Don't try to fit in.
Don't try to fit in. Yeah. Be you. Stand up. Be unique. Be the energy in the room. Be the energy in the room. Do not bow to the energy in the room, because that's what a lot of Black women do. No. When you look at your skin color and you feel like you're the only person there, then you want to dim your light. So don't do that. So I, you know, love the last part. Guys, listen, I'm going to bring her on, you know, another time, because we need to have like a straight program, or, you know, she's going to be part of something we're planning at Women of Rubies, just so everyone can get first-hand information, because this is not enough. We need, you know, to break it down to the nitty-gritty for folks to really learn what this is all about. So this show is going to be available on my YouTube channel at Esther Ijewere 4. I'm going to make it available. It's going to be publicized across my social media platforms, and you can watch it there as well. But then, you know, if you need some more information about PR, you want to know stuff about Nantale's work, kindly follow her. Slide into the DM. Like I always say when I have guests, availability is not accessibility. So when you slide into people's DM and you don't get a response, respect that. They might be busy, they might be overwhelmed, and it could be them telling you, I'll circle back when I am free. Right. So thank you so much for your time today. We're going to be having an info session. You said something about digital marketing. We're going to be having an info session on Women of Rubies. And I believe that some of the things you shared here, I am going to also share on the slides of what I'll be presenting, because there's something you just opened me up to, and that's the skill set. When people start a business, we don't give them the right advice sometimes. Yeah. It is not about the business. It is about you acquiring skills to sustain the business. Yeah. Which is something. If you need help putting that together, let me know. I love digital marketing. I'm a digital marketer, so I'd be happy to contribute. Absolutely. I'm going to slide into your DM or reach out to you on WhatsApp. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Like I said, I'm going to bring her back on soon, where perhaps we'll do it on a Facebook page where we have a larger audience, you know, to reach out to more people, because people need to learn this. We're tired of having our sisters doing the work and then nobody's talking about the work. Yeah. Nobody knows you. Like you said, you go on Google, we can't find nothing on you. And then you're telling everybody you're doing something, but we can't find the something on Google. And that is why I'm going to bring her back on. So kindly follow Women of Rubies as well. If you need more information for that info session, where I'm going to bring in her on to talk more about it. So thank you very much, my sister.